A world full of noise, notifications, opinions, comparisons. Most people have forgotten how to hear the one voice that truly matters, their own. We live surrounded by people, yet so few truly know themselves. We chase validation, fear silence, and we run from solitude as if being alone means being lost. But what if I told you the opposite is true? What if the real key to success, peace, and power lies not in being surrounded by others, but in standing alone till you master your mind? Every great thinker, every legend, every soul that changed history first walked through the valley of solitude. They faced their doubts, their fears, their weaknesses, and emerged unshakable. Today, I want to take you on that journey to show you that staying alone is not isolation, it is transformation. It is where you stop being controlled by the world and start controlling yourself. So as you listen to this speech, I invite you to do one thing, not just hear my words, but feel them, because somewhere deep inside you, there's a voice waiting to be mastered. And once you do, nothing and no one can stop you. There's a moment in life when you have to step away from the noise, from the opinions, from the expectations, from the endless distractions that keep pulling your attention in 1,000 directions. It's not an easy decision, because when you choose solitude, you're choosing to face the one person most people spend their whole lives running from, yourself. See, we live in a time where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and validated. We post, we scroll, we share, constantly searching for connection, yet feeling more disconnected than ever. But here's the truth: you can't connect deeply with the world until you've connected deeply with yourself. You can't find clarity in the crowd. Clarity only comes in the quiet. When you sit in silence, no phone, no distractions, no noise. At first, it's uncomfortable. Your thoughts start to echo. The mind begins to speak, and what it says might not be pretty. It tells you things you've been avoiding. It confronts you with truths you've buried. It reminds you of pain you never healed from, mistakes you never forgave yourself for, and dreams you've let fade away. And that's why people run, because silence exposes what distraction hides. But here's the gift hidden inside that discomfort. Once you face what's inside you, you begin to understand who you really are. Not the version the world told you to be. Not the mask you wear to fit in. The real you, raw, flawed, powerful, and full of untapped potential. Solitude is where self-awareness begins. It's where you learn the rhythm of your own soul. When you spend time alone, you start to notice how your mind works. When it lifts you up, when it tears you down, you start to see patterns, habits that serve you and habits that sabotage you. And the moment you become aware of those patterns, you gain the power to change them. That's why solitude is not loneliness. It's training. It's mental conditioning. It's where warriors are built, because when you can be alone and still feel complete, that's when you've taken your power back. No one can control you when you no longer depend on them for peace. People talk about success like it's about money, status, followers, but real success starts with mastery over your own thoughts. You could have everything in the world, but if you haven't mastered your mind, you'll always live in chaos. The other hand, you could have nothing, yet if your mind is centered, peaceful, and focused, you'll feel like you have everything. That's the paradox of solitude. It strips you of everything external until only your essence remains. That's where transformation begins. Think about it. Every great breakthrough in history came from solitude. The greatest thinkers, leaders, inventors, they all had moments where they stepped away from the world to listen to that quiet whisper inside. Because creativity doesn't scream, it whispers. Wisdom doesn't shout, it waits. And if you can't be alone long enough to hear it, you'll miss it. When you learn to be alone, you stop fearing silence. You start craving it. Because silence becomes strength. It becomes a mirror that reflects not who you pretend to be, but who you truly are. And in that moment, something beautiful happens. You start to trust yourself again. You start to realize you don't need constant approval. You don't need the noise. You are enough. And that's when life starts to shift. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become more meaningful. Goals become more aligned with your purpose, because you're no longer reacting to the world. You're responding from within. It's funny. People often ask, how do I find myself? And the answer is simple. Stop looking out there. Go inside. You won't find yourself in someone else's approval or in a crowd or in the applause. You find yourself in the quiet moments when it's just you, raw, unfiltered, and real. The power of solitude is that it makes you unshakable. It teaches you to stand alone without feeling alone. It builds a foundation that no criticism can crack, no rejection can destroy. And when you've spent time alone mastering your mind, you no longer chase peace. You carry it. So if you're in a season of solitude right now, if you feel distant, disconnected, or unsure, don't run from it. Don't fight it. Lean into it, because life isn't punishing you. It's preparing you. It's carving you into someone capable of handling the success, the love, the vision you've been praying for. Use this time to listen, to learn, to grow. Use it to build mental strength, to calm the storm within, to create clarity about who you are and what you want. Because once you master that, once you can stand alone and feel whole, there's nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stop you. That's the power of solitude. You know, what's wild? Most people spend their entire lives trying to fix what's around them. Their job, their relationships, their environment, but they never stop to fix what's inside them. They'll rearrange everything in their world except their own mind. And yet, that's where every battle begins, every single one. Your mind is the most powerful force you have. It can build you or break you. It can make you unstoppable, or it can keep you trapped in fear and limitation. Here's the catch. Most people never learn how to use it. They let it run wild, uncontrolled, undisciplined, like a wild horse, dragging them through life instead of carrying them toward their destiny. See, the untrained mind doesn't serve you. It controls you. It reacts instead of responds. It magnifies your fears, exaggerates your failures, and whispers lies that keep you playing small. It says, you're not ready. You're not enough. You'll never make it. And when you listen to those voices long enough, you start to believe them. You start to live according to them. And that's when life feels heavy. Let me tell you something. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them. You are the observer, not the noise. But if you never learn to separate the two, your thoughts will run your life, and you'll think that's who you are. That's what happens to so many people. They confuse their patterns with their identity. They think their doubts define them, but those doubts are just echoes of past pain. The untrained mind loves comfort. It clings to what's familiar, even when it's painful, because it's afraid of the unknown. It tells you to stay where you are, not because you belong there, but because it's scared to evolve. That's why so many people never grow. They let fear drive, and they call it safety. The truth is, if you want to rise, if you want real success, you have to train your mind like an athlete trains their body. You have to teach it discipline, focus, and control. You have to build mental strength so powerful that no setback can shake you. Because when your mind becomes your ally, nothing external can defeat you. Think about how many opportunities people miss because of the stories they tell themselves. I'm not qualified. I'm too young. I'm too old. I've failed before. That's not reality. That's programming. Somewhere along the line, you were told a story and you started living as if it were truth. Your story can be rewritten. Every thought you believe either fuels your power or drains it. When you start observing your thoughts, you take back control. You start noticing patterns, how your mind reacts when things don't go your way. It creates fear before you even take action. And when you catch those patterns, you can interrupt them. I will. You can turn, what if I fail? Into, what if I succeed? That's how reprogramming begins, not overnight, but one conscious moment at a time. Training your mind means learning to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it. It means using pain as feedback, not as identity. It means recognizing that emotions are signals, not directions. Anger, fear, doubt, they're messages, not masters. When you can hear them without obeying them, that's when you become powerful. And let's be honest, the mind doesn't like to be trained. It resists. It fights. It will try to pull you back into your old habits, your old excuses. It'll tell you it's too hard. But that resistance, that's proof you're changing. Growth always feels uncomfortable at first because you're stepping into territory your mind has never explored. The more you challenge your mind, the more it expands. You start realizing that failure isn't something to fear. It's data. Every mistake, every setback is just information, a chance to learn and recalibrate. But the untrained mind doesn't see it that way. It sees failure as identity instead of experience. That's why it quits early. That's why it stays stuck. You have to break that pattern. You have to teach your mind that it's safe to grow, safe to stretch, safe to dream bigger. Because once your mind believes it's possible, your body, your energy, your actions, everything starts to align. When you master your mind, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. You stop being tossed around by emotion. You start steering through it. You develop emotional intelligence, the ability to stay calm when everything around you is chaos. And that's where real confidence comes from. Not from pretending everything's fine, from knowing no matter what happens, you can handle it. That's freedom. That's peace. And that's power. You see, the mind is like a garden. If you don't plant what you want, weeds will grow by default. And those weeds, fear, doubt, insecurity, will take over if you let them. But when you start planting thoughts of growth, gratitude, discipline, and courage, your entire inner world changes. And once your inner world changes, the outer world follows. So don't be afraid of your thoughts. Don't run from them. Study them. Train them. Shape them. Because once you master your mind, you master your life. That's when everything begins to change. One of the biggest prisons people live in is the need for approval. It's invisible, but it's everywhere. We grow up trained to seek it from our parents, our friends, our teachers, our followers online. Every time someone likes what we do, we feel alive. Every time they don't, we start to doubt ourselves. And slowly, without even realizing it, we hand over the steering wheel of our lives to everyone else's opinions. You can't imagine how much potential dies in that space, how many dreams, how many ideas, how many lives are never lived because people were too afraid of being misunderstood or judged. We forget that validation is addictive. The more you chase it, the more it owns you. It feels good for a moment, but the crash always comes right after because deep down, you know you're building your confidence on something that isn't real. There's a moment in everyone's life when they have to decide, I keep living for the approval of others, or will I live in alignment with who I truly am? And that choice, that one decision, determines everything that follows. See, when you haven't mastered your mind, you start to believe your worth depends on how people see you. You start performing instead of living. You start saying yes when you mean no. You smile when you want to scream. You shift to fit in, and in the process, you lose the most valuable thing you have, authenticity. But here's the truth. No one's opinion of you will ever be as important as your opinion of yourself. Because when you're at peace with who you are, the world's noise doesn't shake you. People's praise doesn't inflate you, and their criticism doesn't destroy you. You stand grounded. You stand free. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not allow. Because when you depend on external validation, your emotions rise and fall with other people's moods. But when you master self-validation, you become emotionally unshakable. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something meaningful because you were afraid of what people might think? Maybe you didn't speak up. Maybe you didn't start that project. Maybe you didn't walk away from something that was killing your spirit because you thought, what will they say? That question, what will they say, has killed more dreams than failure ever has. You've got to stop asking that question and start asking a better one. What will happen to me if I don't? What will happen to your potential if you keep living to please others? What will happen to your soul if you keep shrinking yourself just to make everyone else comfortable? When you start validating yourself, something incredible happens. You stop begging the world for permission to be who you are. You start showing up as you unapologetically. You stop dimming your light to fit into spaces that were never built to hold your brightness. And the moment you stop chasing approval, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you're finally being real. That's the paradox. When you stop needing validation, you attract genuine respect. People start feeling your energy, your certainty, your truth. Because confidence isn't loud. It's quiet. It's calm. It's that unspoken knowing that no matter what anyone says, you're enough. And listen, doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop depending on them for your self-worth. There's a difference. You can love people deeply and still not let their opinions define your value. You can listen to feedback without losing your identity. You can walk your own path, even if no one claps. You have to get comfortable walking alone sometimes, because when you walk alone long enough, something amazing happens. You stop fearing loneliness and you start finding peace in your own presence. You realize you don't need to be surrounded to feel seen. You don't need constant applause to feel alive. You don't need to prove your worth. You just need to live it. And yes, there will be people who won't understand you. Some will criticize you, some will mock you, some will walk away. Let them. Don't take it personally. People can only meet you at the level of their own awareness. When you rise, not everyone will rise with you, and that's okay. You're not here to fit in, you're here to evolve. Self-mastery means you no longer need the world to confirm your greatness. You already know it within. It means you no longer chase love, you become love. You no longer beg for peace, you create it. When you reach that level, your life changes. You become lighter. You move differently. You speak truth without fear. You act with purpose. You stop reacting to criticism and start responding from clarity. You stop living in performance mode and start living in freedom. That's the kind of power no one can give you and no one can take away. And when you no longer need the world's approval, that's when you finally start living. There's a truth most people don't want to hear. Success isn't built on motivation. Motivation comes and goes. It's emotional. It's fragile. It's loud when you're inspired and silent when you're tired. Real transformation comes from discipline. Discipline is what carries you through when the fire fades. When no one's clapping, your dreams feel distant and your doubts feel louder. See, discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom. It's the structure that turns chaos into clarity. It's the commitment to yourself that says, I'm going to keep showing up, not when it's easy, but when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when no one's watching. Because discipline is the language the universe understands. It doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to consistency. Most people never reach their potential not because they don't have talent, not because they don't have opportunity, but because they lack consistency. They start strong and fade fast. They make promises to themselves they never keep. Every time they quit, they teach their mind that their words don't mean anything. And slowly their confidence erodes, not because life broke them, but because they broke their own trust. If you want to master your mind, you've got to rebuild that trust. You've got to make your word law. When you say you'll do something, you do it, even if you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. That's how you build power. That's how you take control back from chaos. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's not about doing everything right. It's about doing something right every day. It's about making small choices that align with who you want to become. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to stop negotiating with your excuses. Your mind will always look for the easy way out. It will whisper, you can do it tomorrow. You've done enough today. It's okay to rest, and sometimes rest is important. But let's be honest, most of the time it's not rest we need, it's resistance we need to break through. Growth only happens when you do what's uncomfortable. When you train your body to act even when your mind protests, you're rewiring your entire nervous system for strength. And let me tell you something, discipline doesn't make life smaller, it makes it bigger. Because when you learn to control yourself, you unlock freedom that most people will never taste. Freedom to wake up with purpose. Freedom to trust yourself. Freedom to know that no matter how hard it gets, you've got your own back. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop being controlled by impulses. when you no longer react to every emotion, every craving, every fear. That's real power, to feel the chaos inside you and still choose order. That's what discipline gives you command over yourself. And when you have that, life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. Think about it. Discipline is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Everyone wants success. Few are willing to pay the price because success demands sacrifice of comfort, of ease, of the short-term pleasures that steal long-term fulfillment. Every great life is built on habits that no one sees. Early mornings, late nights, quiet discipline when no one's watching. That's the price of mastery. And here's what's beautiful. The more disciplined you become, the less you need motivation, because discipline builds momentum and momentum builds belief. You start proving to yourself day by day that you can depend on you. You become someone your future can rely on. And that's when life shifts, when you start seeing yourself not as a victim of circumstance, but as the architect of your destiny. People look at those who succeed and say, they're lucky. No, they're not lucky. They're consistent. They've built a relationship with discomfort. They've learned to love the grind because they understand that every moment of resistance is shaping them into something stronger. And discipline doesn't just build success. It builds character. It teaches humility, patience, resilience. It teaches you that real satisfaction doesn't come from shortcuts. It comes from earned victories. It gives your life structure in a world that thrives on distraction. It gives you focus when everything else pulls your attention in 100 directions. You've got to ask yourself, do you control your mind or does your mind control you? Because that answer determines the quality of your life. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you train your mind to follow you. Every time you choose action over excuses, you strengthen your identity as someone who follows through. And when that happens, something shifts. Your confidence becomes unbreakable. You stop needing everything to feel right before you act. You stop waiting for perfect moments. You stop waiting for permission. You simply move, because movement is who you are. That's how discipline turns chaos into control. It doesn't remove the storms. It teaches you how to stand firm in the middle of them. It's the bridge between the person you are and the person you're capable of becoming. Every step you take across that bridge builds not just success, but self-respect. Because at the end of the day, discipline isn't about achieving something. It's about becoming someone. That someone is unstoppable. There comes a point in your life when you have to stop running, not from people, not from problems, but from yourself. You have to sit down, look in the mirror, and ask the hardest question of all, am I, and why am I here? That's the moment reflection begins. That's the beginning of purpose. Most people are so busy surviving that they forget to live. They wake up, go through the motions, check the boxes, chase goals that don't even belong to them, and still wonder why they feel empty. You can achieve everything the world says you should want, success, money, recognition, and still feel a void if your life doesn't align with your true purpose. This isn't found in noise, it's discovered in stillness. It's not something you chase, it's something you uncover when you slow down long enough to listen to your soul. That's why reflection is so powerful. It's the space where clarity begins to grow. It's the place where you stop reacting to life and start understanding it. You've got to create time to sit with yourself, to observe your patterns, your choices, your pain. Ask yourself, why do I do what I do? What drives me? What drains me? What brings me alive? Most people never ask those questions because they're afraid of the answers, but that's exactly where truth lies. See, reflection isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. It's not about beating yourself up for the past, it's about learning from it. It's about recognizing that every experience, every failure, every heartbreak was trying to teach you something. Nothing in your life has been wasted. Every single moment has been preparing you for the next version of you. But you'll never see that pattern if you're always rushing, if you're always distracted. Silence is where your mind reorganizes. Stillness is where the puzzle pieces start to make sense. Purpose doesn't shout, it whispers. And most people never hear it because they never stop talking, never stop scrolling, never stop chasing. But when you get quiet, you shut out the noise of the world, you start to hear something else. That calm, steady voice inside that says, this is who you are. This is what you're meant to do. And purpose doesn't have to be something massive. It doesn't mean you have to change the whole world. Sometimes purpose is simply about showing up as your best self, as a parent, a creator, a leader, a friend. It's about using what you've been through to help others rise. It's about turning your pain into power, your lessons into leadership. Reflection gives you the gift of alignment. It helps you see whether your daily actions are moving you toward the life you truly want or away from it. Because let's be honest, success without purpose feels empty. You can be busy all your life and still go nowhere if you're climbing the wrong mountain. Reflection helps you make sure your ladder is leaning against the right wall. When you start living with purpose, it feels different. Challenges don't break you, they refine you. Obstacles don't discourage you, they redirect you. Because you're no longer asking, why is this happening to me? You're asking, is this teaching me? That one shift changes everything. Purpose gives pain meaning. It turns chaos into direction. It gives you a reason to wake up when everything in you wants to quit. Reflection keeps that purpose alive because purpose isn't a one-time discovery. It's a continuous process of remembering who you are and why you started. Every great transformation begins in reflection. When you look back, not with regret, with wisdom, you begin to see that every failure carried a seed of growth. You realize that the moments you thought were breaking you were actually building you, that every loss was preparing you to appreciate what's coming next. You can't create a powerful future without understanding your past. But the point of reflection isn't to live there, it's to learn there, then move forward with clarity. Because once you know your why, every how becomes possible. Once your purpose is clear, your mind finds direction, decisions get easier, focus becomes sharper, energy becomes limitless. And here's the truth. Purpose doesn't eliminate struggle, it makes it worth it. It gives you the strength to keep moving when everything around you says stop. Because when you know why you're doing something, you can handle anyhow. That's why mastering your mind isn't just about control, it's about connection. It's about connecting deeply to the truth of who you are and what you're here to create. So take time to reflect, write, think, breathe, be still. Don't rush the process. Let life speak to you. Because when you finally understand your purpose, you align your thoughts, your actions, and your heart with that inner truth, something shifts. The noise fades, the doubt quiets. And for the first time, you stop chasing life and start living it. And that's when everything begins to make sense. There's something powerful that happens when you walk through the fire and come out on the other side. You stop being the person who just talks about change, and you become the person who is change. You've spent time alone, you've trained your mind, you've learned to stop chasing approval, you've built discipline, you've reflected, found your purpose, and now you emerge stronger, clearer, unshakable. But here's the truth, that strength didn't come easy. It wasn't given to you, it was earned. It was carved from moments of silence, from nights where you questioned everything, from days when quitting looked like the only option. That's where real strength is born, not in comfort, not in applause, but in those invisible battles you fight with yourself when no one's around to see it. People often think being unshakable means being hard, being cold, being untouchable. No. Being unshakable doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you don't fold. It means you've been through storms, you've been tested, and you've built a foundation so strong that even when the wind hits, you bend, but you don't break. You see, life doesn't get easier. The challenges don't disappear, you just get stronger. The chaos outside stays the same, but the calm inside you becomes deeper. And that's when you realize peace isn't found in a perfect life, it's found in a powerful mind. The person who masters their mind becomes dangerous, not because they harm others, but because they can't be controlled by fear, doubt, or circumstances. They no longer react to every storm, they observe it. They've learned that no one can take their peace unless they hand it over. And that kind of strength, that inner stillness, that's freedom. You've probably noticed that when you change on the inside, your environment starts to change too. People respond differently. Situations unfold differently, opportunities appear that once seemed impossible. Because the world mirrors your internal state. When your mind is in chaos, your life reflects it. When your mind is grounded, world bends to your energy. Emerging stronger means you've gone from being ruled by emotion to guided by awareness. You no longer chase what doesn't align with your values. You don't need to prove your worth anymore. You just know it. You move through life with quiet confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. The kind that says, I've been through enough to know I can handle whatever comes next. And let's be real, strength doesn't mean you never fall again. You will, but now you rise faster. You don't stay down. You don't spiral into the same pain because you've trained your mind to find meaning instead of misery. You've learned that every fall carries a lesson. Every setback is a setup for the next chapter of your evolution. That's what makes you unshakable, not perfection, but resilience. The ability to face pain and not let it define you. The courage to keep moving when the outcome isn't certain. The grace to forgive yourself and start again. And there's something sacred about coming out of solitude like this. You don't crave recognition anymore. You don't need everyone to understand your path because you understand it. You no longer move from pressure. You move from purpose. You stop living for attention and you start living from intention. That's what real freedom feels like. When you reach this stage of your journey, life feels different. There's a calmness to your power. You start realizing that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every opinion needs a reaction. Not every loss needs a tear. You start protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You've spent too long rebuilding it to waste it on what doesn't serve your peace. And that's what mastering your mind truly gives you: sovereignty. You're no longer a prisoner of your thoughts. You're no longer at war with yourself. You move with clarity. You speak with purpose, you act with conviction, and the best part, you finally trust yourself completely. You don't second guess every choice. You don't overthink every step. You've built such alignment between your heart, mind, soul that your decisions flow naturally. And when that happens, when your inner world and your outer world are no longer in conflict, that's when you've made it, not to some external goal, but to a state of being that no one can take from you. Because the world can take your money, your titles, your possessions, but it can never take your peace if it lives within you. So, when you walk back into the world after solitude, after reflection, after growth, you don't return the same. You return different. wiser, softer in spirit, but harder to break. You become a light for others, not because you're trying to shine, but because you've become the kind of person who naturally does. You radiate presence. People feel your calm. They feel your strength. They feel your truth. And that's when you realize all the struggle, all the silence, all the solitude was worth it, because it led you here to the unshakable version of yourself. The one who doesn't chase peace is peace. The one who doesn't need to control the world because they've learned to control their mind. And that's when you finally understand mastering your mind isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of your true freedom.